The Scream Kings are in no way responsible for any encounters with the paranormal, extraterrestrial abductions, eldritch insanity, hauntings, hexes, curses, demonic possessions, cryptozoological sightings, or any loss of sleep from listening to this podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Scream Kings podcast, live at StokerCon 2025 at Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually in the same room. I am Nathaniel Darkish.
And I'm NJ Gallegos.
And today, we're just going to talk a little bit about our killer experiences at StokerCon and just, what we've been up to. Because, as two horror writers, we got to go to the cons and got to speak with our people. Got to be among our peers, our colleagues. So we've been having a ton of fun. I guess we could just start with day one. Of the con. I drove up very, very sleep deprived after a red-eye flight, and picked you up at the hotel to get some breakfast because breakfast.
I mean, it fuels the brain and the heart, so
Or in the case of this breakfast, maybe clogs the heart.
Well, mine was quite healthy.
Yeah,
comparatively.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I got this breakfast sandwich that was called the Hungry Man, and as a hungry man, I wanted to put it to the test, and it satisfied. It had like bacon and sausage and egg and home fries and I don't know, all sorts of crap on it. It was delicious.
I definitely watched Nathaniel's cholesterol creep up with every bite.
Yes. Worth it.
Yeah, I'll send you some, like a statin or something in the mail.
There we go.
So you'll be fine. I had a delightful everything bagel with scallion cream cheese, some sort of avocado mash, and then pickled cucumbers, which, are just pickles, but, whatever. I was very healthy. I felt like I was very much in my hippie era.
Yeah, it seemed like a little bit of a weird combination. Avocado and pickles, and I don't know.
I enjoyed it.
It just... I needed meat on meat on meat. Meatception, if you will.
It's too bad that Max isn't here because he would have had a field day with that fucking comment.
You know it.
And then Thursday kicked off with some panels. Creep and look and see a skid real quick.
I, for one, started off listening to Found Forms in Horror, which was a lot of fun, kind of getting into this idea of, using, the format to tell the story. So, whether that means, writing a book, fully like Mark Z. Danielewski with House of Leaves, and, having it be like letters and footnotes and all that contributing to the way that the story's being told, or like, writing Dracula as, diary entries and recorded diary entries and all letters and telegrams and all of that stuff. Or telegraphs, not telegrams, I can word.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, kind of getting into that idea that the form, whether it's just how the words are arranged on the page or whatever, can contribute to the storytelling. And, as a person who loves to read that kind of stuff and play with that kind of stuff, I was all about that.
Nice. I attended the Adapting Books to Film, Bringing Horror from the Page to the Screen, which I found pretty enlightening. The panel had some great folks, including, Brian McCauley, who has been on the podcast, and if you all recall, Tortures Max with Jack Frost.
Yes, Sir Brian of Snowminton.
That's it, yep. Jamie Flanagan, Clay McLeod Chapman. It was a banger. And essentially they went over optioning, what that kind of entails. And one thing I found to be very interesting, they said that typically short stories, 5 to 10 pages, are more likely to be optioned. which can often be turned into a spec script, which is, nobody asked you to write a script, but somebody will do it. It's amazing. And that is more likely to be made than, novels and things of that nature. They did mention that if you study screenwriting often, that will lead you to become a better writer, a better novelist, because you see things a little bit differently. You see it in terms of action cues and things of that nature. And, the biggest thing, they said, don't give up your rights. That's the major thing. But honestly, if somebody wanted to buy my stuff, I would just be like, fine, here, take it. But I should not do that.
You gotta fight for your right.
To party.
No, just for your right.
Oh, shit. And did you go to any more panels?
We both went to the Stake the Landing one.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, getting into, making endings that don't suck. And, kind of exploring, how to have a satisfying ending that doesn't just, pull a twist, out of nowhere, but actually, set stuff up. It has a meaningful resolution that works for characters and all that. It was a good discussion. After that, I don't know, we just went and got
I went to the, probably my favorite panel of the entire con.
Yes.
It was, let me see.
Sex and Monsters, How Horror is Redefining Bodies and Relationships.
Yeah. And had two of my girls on there, Caitlin Ladd, who was moderating, and then Claire Castleberry, both who were with Winding Road Stories, my publishing company. And Caitlin kicked the entire panel off with a bang whenever she asked each participant what monster they would like to fuck. So I'm going to pose the question to you, Nathaniel. Some sexy vampire ladies can really, do it for me. I guess that would probably be my go-to. Fair. Yeah.
I know it's a little basic, but,
Basic is good.
Fangs are, I don't know what it is.
It's sexy. I have considered this, and I believe it would be Mothman. Specifically, if it is the Mothman of the statue.
Well, yeah, because...
That butt. That booty.
I don't know how more people didn't see Mothman if that is in fact his posterior, because I don't know how he's flying around with them fangs clapping.
I have heard that Sir Mix-a-Lot actually wrote his song about Mothman.
Yes. And of course, one day we will make a pilgrimage to the Mothman statue and put a fiver between them cheeks. as is tradition for so many people.
It's only right, really.
And then we got probably the most delicious soup dumplings on the planet.
Yeah, and I gotta give you a shout out on that. You located this restaurant, and it was a banger.
Yes, we had some wonderful soup dumplings, and hung out with Caitlin, and it was just so good.
It was. The truffle dumpling, I've been thinking about that one for a while.
Me too. Me too.
I felt fancy.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, let's talk about Friday. It's Friday, everybody getting down on Friday. Sorry.
Started with the horror podcasts panel, which I was only in there for a couple minutes, so you can speak to that much more than I can.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that I was just enthralled with is the founder of the No Sleep podcast was talking about how they have a subreddit, and somebody who was working this really boring insurance job was writing short stories and posting it to the subreddit. And wouldn't you know it, an up-and-coming director found them, recruited them. You might have heard of him, Mike Flanagan. And,
no big.
Nah, he's small fish, comparatively. And this person actually works on, Midnight Mass,
Oh! Actually, we had this person on our podcast.
Did you really?
Yeah, with Jamie Flanagan. Yeah, both of them were on. It was great.
Yeah, and I just found it to be an interesting panel, especially, doing podcasts and all. Another thing that they mentioned as far as writers, don't sell your rights, right? However, if you're going to, try to keep your audio rights, because that can be kind of parlayed into other avenues that, make you more money, more exposure. So something to think about.
Plus a good proof of concept for your writing.
Oh, yeah.
We also hit up the 80s and 90s kinder trauma panel, which was so fun. Talking about, all of the stuff that was either directly horror or, fantasy, sci-fi, kids' TV shows, whatever, that just, traumatized, all of the youths of the 80s and 90s. Just stuff like, well, I don't think they brought this up specifically, but, David Bowie's crotch bulge and...
You mean the starring actor of Labyrinth?
Yes, in Labyrinth. Yes, his bulge was the star. The Red Bull in Last Unicorn, or the Halloween episode of Garfield. It was just a fun discussion. I felt very heard knowing that I too... I who was also traumatized by some of these, goofy things, I was among my people.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm going to pose the question to you. What things from that era traumatized you the most?
I mean, I was first, like most majorly notably traumatized by the original Resident Evil game, which, is PS1, super low poly. I look at it now and I just laugh at it, and it's just like, oh man, what a goofy game. But when you're 8 years old and someone shows you, one of the opening scenes, which has a zombie chewing on a body with the head across the room, it maybe gave me night terrors for a few months. But just sometimes there would just be like little snippets in a bunch of different things that were just like, ooh, I don't like that part. But yeah, I mean, specifics aren't coming to mind as much, which is weird, because I'm sure I'll think of a dozen of them after this episode is done. Naturally.
I would say one that really sticks with me is The Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
Like, the entire thing, really.
Especially when they meet the rats of Nim.
Yeah. The part with the owl, where the owl, he's like kind of frozen and then he comes to life, he twists his head around. That part really bothered me. And then the other thing that really has stuck with me is how they couldn't move her son because he had pneumonia, because the outside air or whatever, the chill would kill him. So I always grew up thinking that if you got pneumonia, like, you were like dead, like it was done.
Yeah.
So when I went to medical school and I realized that was not the case, it was kind of like a mind-blowing revelation for me.
You're like, Don Bluth lied to me.
Yeah. He really did, though. Don Bluth is kind of trauma fuel if you think about it. Like, all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, most of his stuff is full of just hellish imagery that you're like, how did this make it into all of your children's stuff?
I'm going to ask you, because you have children, like, do they have stuff that is as traumatizing, do you think, or do you think that it has been toned down?
I mean, there's still definitely stuff out there. I mean, there's still, Coraline and Paranorman and, lots of newer stuff. But I'd say you'll encounter less of the weird, hellish imagery just like in your everyday cartoons. But, it's still... There's still a lot of it present, but it's kind of done more on purpose, and they kind of tell you, this is our horror for kids. Mm-hmm. But I'd say a lot of the horror for kids is, straight up horror still, and it is still traumatizing. And plus, my kids want to watch all of the old things, and so we show them stuff, and then suddenly, Ratigan at the end of Great Mouse Detective, getting all deranged and attacking Basil, and as they fight on Big Ben, maybe has given my daughter some night terrors recently. But she also is kind of obsessed with it and keeps wanting to hear the Ratigan song.
Oh, that is a good song. honestly.
Well, yeah, Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Like, you don't beat Vincent Price.
That's fair. I think I may have told you this, but when I had chicken pox when I was in like first grade, my mom put me to bed and I watched The Great Mouse Detective probably 3 or 4 times in varying stages of fever. So it has like kind of been seared into my brain in a very weird way.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Like, if I ever develop shingles, I'm probably going to hear the Radigan song just playing in my brain.
Or just the little bell that he used to summon Felicia, the cat.
Felicia.
Oh, my Bartholomew. Sorry, it's like my favorite Disney movie. Or it's like, top 2.
It's a good favorite, honestly.
Underrated. Wildly underrated. But that is a podcast for another day. Just me rambling about how much I love that movie. What else did we go to that day?
Let's see.
Building a prolific career in horror.
Yes. That we did. The major takeaways that I got from that is...
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, which is a general good life rule.
Yeah.
Really. Don't essentially take advantage of any time that you have to write to do it. Don't be like, oh, I need to take a bubble bath and then light some candles and turn in a circle 3 times before I can write. There were authors talking about how they would write whenever their children were sleeping or when they're waiting in the post office on their phones.
Or, while grading papers.
Yeah.
Or while kids are taking a math test. And, and that's, successful authors like, Tremblay, apparently sometimes would... Yeah, my favorite comment that he had was like, man, like when they were, taking a math test and I was writing at the same time, they could have been cheating. I don't friggin' know. Like, whatever. And yeah, sometimes, we just need to give ourselves permission to just write when we can write.
And then conversely, you need to also be kind to yourself and give your permission not to write if you're not feeling it. Because even if you're not writing, if you're thinking about your story, if you're showering, there's something going in your subconscious. Just even relaxing and taking some time to yourself might be more conducive to writing than actually just forcing yourself to do it if you're not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did mention, this I have found very true for myself. I typically have different projects going at the same time. I'll have a short story, I'll have a novella, I'll have a novel. And so if I'm not feeling one of them, I'll jump to something else. And I feel like it is a very good way to avoid writer's block.
Yeah, or at least have the next project stewing in the back of your brain so you can take notes on it or whatever.
If you do stuff like that. I'm a pantser, so I don't do that shit.
I'm trying to be better about planning stuff because then it saves me a lot of time with editing. Not that I don't spend a copious amount of time doing that too.
Fair.
But still, majorly reduces it. And then there was the big mass author signing. So, people came and got some books signed by NJ.
They did. The big fish was Joyce Carol Oates, which, I mean, fair. But it was a good mingling opportunity. I talked to a lot of cool people. Ooh, you know what we didn't touch on? The final girl panel.
Oh, yeah, that was... How did
we didn't take notes for it, I don't think, either.
Yeah, that's probably why. Final girl panel, super fun. Had lots of rad people talking, notably, as previous guests go, we had Grady Hendrix there, and we had a really fun conversation with him earlier in the day about someone needing the jaws of life to remove a cock ring that was just, had kind of fused itself to that area, and apparently that person dropped acid and then needed the jaws of life to remove it, which I don't remember exactly how we got on that particular story, but I was here for it.
So we got onto that particular story because I had told him I was an ER doctor during my day job, and he literally was like, what have you pulled out of people's butts? Which, as you all know, is my favorite topic, especially during Thanksgiving dinner.
Especially when people are getting the stuffing ready.
Yeah,
Naturally.
obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, that was just tons of fun. Talking about the panel was getting into like why the final girl? What is a final girl exactly? How has that grown and changed? What is so appealing and enduring about that trope? And I mean, we all love final girls. That one was just a party. That was a fun panel.
It was. All right, top 2 favorite final girls.
Well, obviously Ellen Ripley.
Duh.
And then, I mean, she isn't fitting the mold quite as nicely, but I love me some Clarice Starling.
Okay.
She's just the bomb. But I mean, I guess to fit more conventionally within that framework, probably Sydney from Scream, or I don't know, maybe Heather Langenkamp, either as herself in New Nightmare or as Nancy in Nightmare 1 and 3. Like, just really strong, interesting approaches to these characters, and I don't know, they just kick butt.
They do.
How about you?
Honestly, those are my 2 as well. And I would give a shout out to I'm blanking on her name in the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Laurie Strode.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. She definitely kind of set the prototype.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not the biggest Halloween person.
That's fair.
I appreciate what it was, but Black Christmas was better.
Well, you know that I love my trash reality TV, and the fact that Kyle Richards from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is on Halloween automatically bumps it up for me.
Okay, that's fair.
My worlds are intersecting, and it is glorious.
That's fair. But yeah, then there was the big mass author signing, and then you went off to have adventures with your publisher
At the Topless Bar.
Yeah.
It was alas not a topless bar. It was a tapas bar.
Tapas bar.
Tapas, which was quite good. So yes, we went to, I don't remember what it was called, but my editor, Michael Dolan, with Winding Road Stories, took us all out, and naturally the conversation devolved into aliens pretty quickly. So we were just having a great time. There were drinks involved, obviously.
I was still making, stripper jokes the entire time via text.
You have to.
Because that's just, what one does.
Sure.
I went and got dinner with a bunch of awesome people, several of whom are going to be on our podcast soon. Just got some good old-fashioned soul food. And then I went to the Final Frame short film competition, and that was a freaking delight. Really fun short films, just wild, crazy, well-made short films. Some standout ones that I remembered. I can't keep the names in my brain for more than like 5 seconds half the time. But there's one called Cruelty, which came out last year, and it's directed by Sam Dass. I think that's the correct pronunciation, D-A-S. And it was this really great story about this woman being followed home. She's just taking a shortcut through an alley or whatever, and then a guy starts yelling and, "Hey, come here! Oh, you think you could just walk away from me?" And just obviously that's a very threatening situation, and then she ends up kind of running into this junkyard to try to hide from him, and then maybe the tides get turned a little bit with a very interesting monster involved. It was a really, really fun one. It's like a 9-minute short. If you ever get a chance to check it out, I love that one. I thought it was absolutely great. The creature effects were just right.
Oh.
That one slapped. And then also there was this just utterly bonkers one that I loved because it was just cuckoo bananas. It was called The Last Thing She Saw, and it's directed by Anthony Cousins and Rebecca Doherty, and basically it's this girl is house sitting for somebody, and two home invaders come in, and one of them, one of them is trying to open a safe, and the other one is supposed to just like hold her, but he's real intense and aggressive, and rips out one of her eyes, and then almost rips out another eye, but then it gets very Evil Dead bonkers because it's like hanging out of her eye by like 2 feet of
optic nerve, I guess.
Yeah, optic nerve. And so she like, grabs a knife and like fights back, but then is like having to try to survive, and she's like has to hold her eye and like direct it around corners and stuff. It was so hilarious and
it's
gross
like,
and
All Real Monsters, Crumb.
Yeah, like that. But just if it was so gruesome, and like there was a little bit where like she accidentally dropped her eye because she was like cleaning it in the sink, and she dropped it and it went down the drain, and then got like nasty hair crap clotted around it, and just like everyone, like the whole crowd was just eating it up, and just laughing, and that one was so fun. Also absolutely worth your time, especially if you can stomach, pretty solid, practical effects. They were really fun. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of really great ones. Obviously, I've forgotten some of these other ones. There's like 15 short films. But those two were so fun. And then I called it a night. Well, I went to bed and then watched a whole nother movie because I was still amped up from that. So I watched Oddity, which we'll have to talk about in the podcast sometime because that movie slapped.
Awesome.
Then today.
Which has been quite a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very jam-packed. We got a little bit of a later start because, Nathaniel stayed up and watched a movie, and I had to read to myself in my room and practice my intonation and such, and time myself for my reading.
And think fondly back on the soup dumplings and dream about the soup dumplings.
Oh my god, yeah. So we hit up a panel called Parental Horror, a generational trauma and family ties that terrify, and it was a very enlightening panel, and also kind of it makes you realize how many of us really truly do need therapy, and luckily writing can act as a form of therapy.
I have found it to be great for that.
So, because we did kind of touch on this a little bit. I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty like idyllic childhood.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I mean, I like my family was pretty poor for a lot of growing up, but like besides that, like my parents and the siblings and stuff, we all loved each other, and it was a very like supportive, wholesome growing up, which is not everyone's experience, but it was still great to to go to this panel, one, to be like, oh, thank God my life wasn't dealing with some of the things that some of these other people have dealt with, but also just to be able to look back at like the things that have been trauma in my life, whether it's illness or poverty or things like that. There's a lot of interesting things that one can explore in horror.
I unfortunately did not have Nathaniel's idyllic childhood, which, quite honestly, though, it's good for me because it makes me, hilarious because, my humor is a defense mechanism. Yes, my therapist has told me that, and sometimes she laughs at my jokes, and
That means you're winning at therapy.
Dude, yeah. Sometimes, though, she writes, like, really, like, a lot after I say something, and I'm like, oh, fuck. But, it is kind of interesting to look at how your upbringing does influence your writing. I had a dad who was an alcoholic. My parents got divorced when I was about 6, and I really didn't have any contact with him until I was older. one time, and that is a story for a different time. But I can see how it does bleed into my writing. And, I mean, I do think it has helped me process what has happened. For those of you who have read The Broken Heart, Jack, who is Casey's husband, is an alcoholic, a bit of an absentee father. And something bad happens to him. And you know what? I really enjoyed that. I did. A
little cathartic?
A little bit. And, to that point, if you had a bad childhood, don't feel bad about using it for your writing. You use that pain for your art, damn it.
Channel it.
Yes, it was inflicted on you, inflicted on us now.
Yep. Great panel. And then we went to some readings, and then you did your reading.
I did do my reading. I read from it is still a work in progress, but it is my lesbian cannibal novella, aptly titled Eat Your Heart Out. And I had a great time.
I had a great time.
Yeah, it was fun. And the other readers with me were pretty awesome, honestly.
Yes.
I'm going to have to definitely check out Sophia Ajram's book. I believe it's Stoker nominated.
Yes.
Yeah. She did a great job with her reading. Like, it was chaotic and just very alluring. And then Victoria Navarra wrote a story about a wedding cake and the ramifications that this cake, which coincidentally is shaped like the bride, and when it is cut, what happens? Yeah,
I love that story. I'm really eager to read more of her writing.
And I also kind of want a red velvet cake now. A little bit.
I mean, as far as cake goes, I'm not a cake person. Red velvet's pretty good.
It is.
That was what my wedding cake was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Ours was like a passion fruit cake, but we were in Hawaii, so I mean, it's standard. And then we went to...
after that...
no, you did something, didn't you?
Well, we got food.
Oh, yeah, we did get food.
And then and then we recorded an episode of another podcast. We were guests for Scott Siegler. And had a delightful chat with him. Hello, anyone who is checking out our podcast after hearing our voices there. But he's awesome. We're definitely going to have him back on our show soon to talk about maybe some alien stuff. Scott's written a really fun novel set in the alien universe that is basically Bronze Age technology versus xenomorphs. And it freaking slaps. It's called Phalanx, and we're gonna just have to talk about that with him. There we go. I found the words.
You're doing good.
I know. I'm flawless at this. This doesn't make editing hard ever. And he was an utter delight to record with. So we're gonna pull him in soon.
Anybody that's written for aliens, in my opinion, is like elevated to demigod status.
Yes, and there's several of those walking around as golden demigods that we just get to touch their greatness and wonder how we can ever do that.
I mean, I could write some Vasquez fan fiction, but it's going to be a bit horny, I think.
Well, duh, it's Vasquez.
Mm-hmm. And then we went to...
Editing horror.
Yes.
Shaping stories and building worlds. So that was a fun one. Just, hearing kind of from the perspective of a bunch of editors. There was an editor from Tor Nightfire, Ellen Datlow, who does roughly every anthology. Paula Garan, John F.D. Taff, and Eric Guinard. All given really good insight in terms of kind of what the process is like for them, working with writers, and how writers can better work with them, and I don't know. It was good. It was insightful to kind of see from the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was a good reminder to realize that they are also human. So, not to say they're not infallible. You know, they do make mistakes, and just having a collegial relationship with an editor is a very important thing. One of the other takeaways that I am going to apply to my own editing is, I never considered this, changing the font, because it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that it's reading something new. And then also reading your stuff aloud. You know,
Oh yeah, that helps so much.
I hate to do it just because I don't know. It seems exhausting to me, but
It is.
yeah, as somebody, like, I've done, you know, the 2 novels and whatnot, and you can go over that thing as much as you want, and you will still find a frickin' typo in the final publication. It just makes you want to die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. And then, yeah, later we are going to hopefully hit up a seafood place.
Hell yeah.
Poor Nathaniel doesn't get, you know, fresh seafood, so...
Yeah, landlocked states like Utah, just a little too far away to ever get anything quite so sumptuous. But yeah, the Bram Stoker Awards are tonight. So while we're eating seafood, there will be a big banquet for that, and then we'll be hopefully catching, you know, at least some of the awards and hanging out and, you know, just having a good time. You know, the awards are great, and we're looking forward to finding out where next year's StokerCon will be, because
there's been some scuttlebutt, and
oh my gosh, so much
not
scuttlebutt.
certain what to trust. I'm kind of hoping it's Seattle, because I've never been there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
beautiful. Love to go spend lots of time there. I mean, just, you know, somewhere close to me would be fantastic.
It's only a few 1,000 miles away, maybe? Nah, 800.
Yeah, that's way better than the 2,000 miles I am
Fair.
right now.
Fair.
Like, almost dead on 2,000 miles.
Perfect.
So there we go.
And that is StokerCon, folks. And we are taking away more books than we probably should. Our luggage is going to be heavier, and our hearts are lighter.
Yes. Or more full? I don't
know.
Whatever metaphor makes more sense for the stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to continue to stay spooky.
Stay spooky.